Now we come to our first discussion panel with the title "A World Without Cookies and What's Next?" And it's all about the beloved or hated cookies. And there I'd like to invite Sonja Schneeweiser to come up to the front. So please wait.
Sonja?
Sonja, please, can you take over? Sonja Schneeweiser and the panel "A World Without Cookies, What is Next?" Hello, can you hear me? Yes, thank you. Welcome to the panel discussion, "A World Without Cookies, What's Next?" Cookies are text files that are saved on our documents to identify users or to get in touch with users. They were used for online analysis and initiatives for tracking prevention are now trying to get rid of the cookies. So it is about data protection and privacy here. It is not only about cookies, but the use of personal data. My name is Sonja Schneeweiser, and I'm working in Austrian Advertisement, Österreich Werbung, and I'm taking care of the part of technology and innovation. And together with my participants, I would like to talk about how successful online marketing and how online marketing will look like in the future. Peter Harlander is an expert in communication, CEO of Harlander and Partner, attorneys at law, and he is the co-founder of the legal GmbH. So the next participant is Gerhard Köhner. He's CEO and founder of the startup Six Data Analytics and taking care of data analytic analysis, and also participated in a transformation in an enterprise, a digital transformation in his enterprise. Then Lisa Weichelbaum is a senior programmatic consultant at eDialog, and she is dealing with the question of cookieless future. Lisa, at eDialog, you created a white paper on the post-cookie era. Why is the cookie discussion in the center of attention, and which measures need to be taken in this area? I think this has also a historical focus. We all working in marketing. We learned to work with the with cookies. It was something we used everywhere. If you bought or purchased a marketing technology or instrument, you always needed to deal with cookies in the past. And here now we're seeing some changes. We're seeing a transformation. We have to say that there are different types of cookies. We have cookies that are necessary and required on a technical level, and these cookies that we use technically are necessary and still required also in the future. But then there are the cookies that in the online marketing are affecting us because I'm dealing with the question of the post-cookie era, these test cookies, analysis cookies. So they are not required from a technical point of view, and and this is only to collect information on the user in order to adapt my marketing measures on this user. And this is dealing with analysis, retargeting. So, and it depends a lot on this discussion and is affected if cookies are no longer used or the marketing cookies are no longer used. So, but I have to say that there are some alternatives already. And research has already been done in this area. Experts are working on that to find and create alternatives that will replace cookies. So today we have to give the consent. The browser is blocking cookies. So retargeting in particular, can they and the cookies which are used from a technical point of view, will they still work? Yes, retargeting will work also in the future. I think retargeting will still be in place also in the future. You said the problem of there's the problem of the browser. If we are looking at the issue with cookies, we can say that we have three pillars. We have the topic of consent. We need the consent from the user. This is more important than ever, getting consent from the user. And then we have on the other side the issue of the browser. We are living in a world already partially without cookies. Almost every browser blocks cookies already. With iOS 14, Apple had there was a big issue last year, and so 70% is covered by Google, and Google announced last year that by 2023 they will no longer use cookies, and so we have to consider what is happening with the browser and what will happen on the market. What are the alternatives that we have from the publisher side? There is a lot going on, so there's a lot of change and a lot of movement. So regarding users, we have to ask ourselves or consider what they want. What do they want to do with their data? Do I want to do retargeting? If cookies from the technical point of view will no longer exist, we have other alternatives. The most important thing is that that this is an accurate process. So this is a long process. So, and you're not concerned in this regard? No, I'm not concerned. Regarding remarketing, or no matter which measure I take, but I think the most important, or the important thing is regarding content or getting a consent in order to be comply with all rules, is to ask, what do I want to do with all this? Maybe I don't want to have only one remarketing audience, but 50. And if I don't have use cases, then maybe it doesn't make sense. So we have to ask ourselves, where do we need remarketing? Where will we not need it anymore? And because there are other possibilities to send relevant messages to the users where we don't need cookies anymore. So the era of big data is over yet. Yes, exactly. This is a good key word. We were talking about the marketing perspective beside the consent and agreement by the user. And there was a news that Google Analytics is something that is not legal, and all these things are discussed. Mr. Krümer, you talked to or you wrote about this in various articles. Could you summarize it briefly? I would like to mention once again to what Lisa said, big data is over, but I would say on the other side, big data is still starting. And my colleague then will say something more about the legal aspects, but there's so much dangerous information also, but the background is there are things that the data protection is controlling and ruling. Some things are exaggerated or are not correct, but some things were never allowed before. And in terms of data protection, data privacy, we were always thinking how to protect data, but it was never asked what data or information I really want for me or what is necessary and required. Remarketing and technical platforms, they will still exist, but maybe in a different way. But what can I do if I want to comply with the data privacy and the data protection regulation? There is still more to say on that and to discuss, because we cannot simply say data analytics are not legal or were not correct. So yes, exactly. I agree. I fully agree with what you say. And my clear statement is that panel is already the wrong word. A cookie is not. It is not relevant if we use cookie or not. I don't know any marketing tool, and I'm dealing with this topic for a long time. No marketing tool is illegal because it's using cookies, and no marketing tool becomes illegal if it's not using cookies. So Google Analytics is not illegal because it's using cookies. You can, for example, also mention other examples like Atomo is legal even though they are using cookies. But we have to look in between where are the real issues. And on one hand, it is the intensity of the data processing and also their reference and the data export to the USA. And data analytics and Google Analytics is illegal because Google says that these data are not only used to analyze our data, but is also integrated and mixed with other data that is creating a big soup of data. If they would only use it to analyze our information on our website, then there would only be the problem of the export to the US, but it would be close to being even legal. And this is the issue, and it is not relevant if we retarget our users with an IT or browser printing or whatever other technology we use. But here the data processing is relevant. I'm tracking users throughout the internet. This is the illegal part, not because I am doing it with cookies. Because cookies, on the contrary, they are even more data-friendly and a data-friendly technology, because I can decide, I can consent to it, or I can delete the cookies, and with the browser fingerprinting, I cannot do anything. I cannot prevent it. I can do nothing against it to delete the data. So this discussion is not really relevant. The issue is how, for what reason are these data processed and why are they processed? This is the topic and this is the issue. And this makes it, this is the relevant part in it, and is but it's not because these are cookies. So which reasons would there be to decide or determine or evaluate if they are if it is illegal or not? So can I do it without consent? This is the core issue in marketing, where we are welcoming our users with multiple choice tests. This is nothing very user-friendly, nor for the user, nor for the provider. And for as far as health data are concerned, this is maybe required, is necessary. The warning cookies, but moderate web analysis can also be carried out. Then there is the question, why are the data processed? What for? This could be also a topic. And then last but not least, also the data export to abroad. So these four aspects, these 4 points are important to decide if we need the consent from the user or not. And if I have the consent, then everything is fine, everything is legal. Yes, if I got the consent in the right way, complying with all laws and with the legislation, then everything is clean and everything is a clean process. But the management tools we're using at the moment are not are not mature. They still need to be developed further. So we still need to see what is coming up here next. Gerhard, we are dealing with analytics mainly. What are you doing to tackle this topic? We're talking about, or I'm talking about Google Analytics, that is a valuable tool besides all the issues with data privacy. But we are working with these Google tools a lot. We have a market share with Google Analytics of 84%. So most companies say, or I do tracking with Google or Analytics, or I don't do it at all. So the business manager, they all are discussing this, and this is a big discussion, a big issue. And the question for us is not with what I'm tracking, but how they are tracked, and if this complies with the data protection regulation. And if not, then we have a problem. And there are different alternatives also. Google, with Sheet Server, they are doing something. They are moving forward, and they are developing other tools. There are different tools that are available. They are focusing on the improvement of the website to analyze only this part to comply with the GDPR in order not to forward any data to US. So they try to prevent that. All tools have different weaknesses and strengths, but some technologies are not that well developed yet. We are working with PD Pro, a European supplier that makes it possible to collect data, your own data. So in the second custom intelligence area, and now we are starting with it. We're starting to deal with this discussion. Before it was only a discussion of marketing, how can I do retargeting, and in order to measure the data. And here the data privacy was the starting point in order to deal with this issue or this topic. You from eDialog, how do you deal with the topic of Google Analytics? as has already been said, Google Analytics didn't become illegal now, but it is about how do you deal with the consent, data consent, how do you deal with this, all the data that you collect. I know it from the customer as well. If it is included as a standard, if you don't inform the user, then of course it is not possible. But I couldn't have done it before, even so. I need the consent by the user, and I need to also make the documentation available to the user. I'm convinced that Google Analytics, this tool, will also be used in 2 years. Now, a company will still exist with the clean tracking. We as advertiser, we have a better control to where we send data and where do I want to do analysis of data. And I think that this will develop further. With beside tracking, we also do, with this clean tracking, we also try to do it in our company. How do you see this, Peter? Can we implement it that way to make it clean? Or, yes, I think it would be better to do it that way, better than giving Google the order to integrate this tool on your website. I think it is the right, is going into the right direction, and it will be a decisive step to take in the future. But this alone will not provide a solution in order to transfer or to export data to the US, we need this consent, and the supervisory authorities, they clearly said it. And only to say that a tool is or complies with the GDPR only because it is not using cookies, this would not be something compliant with the legislation. But it should be also connected to the fact of the consent. So I agree. It is not the solution, but it's a first step, because the browser can decide where, and with this clean tracking, I could also decide where I send or where to send specific data. Also, we have Gentis, who also deals with this question, and the server-side tracking is something new, was something new a few months ago. Some would not even have known what it means, and we can see or notice it also when we discuss it with our customers. I think that it's going into the right direction. The service-side tracking, I have it on my server, and then I can decide if I want to send it anywhere else. So yes, this is, I think, the thing that is important, that we are taking the next step, that we are going a step further, and this is the good thing in it. In the next 1 or 2 years, there will still be a lot going on here, and now we really need experts to work on this issue, who really deal with this topic, who really know about it and are competent. Absolutely, yes. But sometimes when we're talking about this we say, yeah, nothing is possible without data, and the big companies use all this data, and then we ask themselves, but how do you use that, and what do you invest in the databases or the data protection, or what do you want to do with all this data? And then they cannot answer to this question. Then they keep quiet, and then the next day they continue talking about the big big companies and bad companies that are collecting data. But when we are talking about CRM data, then we're talking always about the same, but not about the digital data. And 6 months ago, I would not have been so positive about it. I think now we are dealing with the topic now where, and this is a good thing, yes, because now without consent, I cannot build up thousands of audiences, and I have to think first, what do I want to do with the data? And this is an important aspect because during the last few years, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of data tracked and a lot of detailed analysis were done, but no one ever asked, why do I do it and why do I need or what for? If we're talking about the consent, and if I use tools, and the company has its headquarters in the USA, and so then I could, if I do it according to the regulation, then I could also use cookies. I could use them also in the USA. In Google, the main problem is that they are not defining and determining first why the data are collected or what for, and this is what is illegal or is not compliant with the GDPR. And I cannot get a consent from a user if I don't even tell the user why I need or what I want to do with this data. And so I think the data controllers need to do something on this. But I think something happened here already, also with Google. Google is trying to implement a Google Cloud in Germany. This will be a big project. It will last years and will be a long process. This is nothing that can happen from today till tomorrow. So it needs some time, but they are working on it already. So Google is dealing with this topic with the GDPR, and if they are creating Google systems and tools, then I'm convinced that one day there will be a Google Analytics tool that will be hosted in a way that they are not exported to the US anymore and not processed further for any reason without giving a good reason. So, and this brings us to the dilemma. Because until now, as a provider, as a website provider, we were used to get these tools for free, but they weren't for free. We paid for them with the data that were collected from our users. And so there will be a change now, because if the data will not be allowed to be processed in this dimensions and this extent anymore, then there will be a change in how this system or these tools will be offered. So they will cost something in the future. And the tool providers do fast tracking, and it is written under the below the website. Is this also okay for the data collection prevention? So it doesn't matter how I collect it, if I put third-party cookies or not, if I do service-side tracking on-premise. This, from the legal point of view, is not relevant. In terms of the data privacy and in the GDPR, it has been established And the privacy guideline is even stricter than the GDPR. And in this guideline, it has been established that only services can be implemented which the user really wants and wishes for. And no, the user doesn't want to be tracked throughout the internet to get different advertisements. This is not what the user wants, and therefore need the consent. No matter if I have first or third party tracking. And it doesn't matter if I use cookies or other scripts, more complicated scripts, or browser fingerprinting, or browser storage, or whatever I use. This does not play a role. As soon as I use technologies in order to save a feature, a characteristic of the user, in order to recognize the user later on, then I have to fulfill this this requirement.
Do you have any questions? Gerhard, you have many customers that you serve with 506 Analytics. What are the biggest misunderstandings that you face on a daily basis? Well, the main misunderstandings is that there is no Google Analytics and that they don't make use of the product. And we have something new that comes upon us independently of data protection. And in the past, we had it. And the biggest deficit is that I move on to an own tracking. And of course, I have a look at my information, but the rest of the information that I had before, I do no longer have it. So there's a very simple example that with Google Analytics, if I can say that if I track it myself, I cannot do this via fingerprinting or via other means. So I have to rethink. I have to start saying that I'm not working with this Information Plus, which is at our disposition free of charge, but I can only work with what is written on the customer card and what I can do with this. So we don't really think about that if a person takes a lot of time on a website and spends more time on it, that we ask ourselves whether this content still exists or not, and that they've made use of it and seen the use of it, or when I remember, or I use other. And if we talk about the normal retail business, we ask them suddenly, where's my customer card? And then we turn around and go outside. So, you know, when I'm inside, I can ask the person inside, and even if you buy it 5% cheaper, then I do that. And we have this situation that many people are consciously say no. And they say, for example, I have great deficits, and we do know that with our facts and figures, and we say no, that most of them say nothing. They don't want to nor say yes nor say no. So, you know, you haven't said it yet, but either you say yes or you say no. And if you say consciously a yes or a no, then I have it in future, and what can I do with it? Well, how can I connect it to other situations? It's the biggest challenge because we are we use too much of it. We have too much of this information, and then, you know, we lose information, and we forget to make use of it. Okay, yes, I know. So we have access to everything, and now we have to know that we can no longer track every user anymore. I would like to also add a comment here. For example, it was a very nice example with the customer card. I think that we should not be surprised if a user comes onto the page and there is a lot of information, a big box with content. We can do it better. We can optimize. Of course, I have to teach the user how to form them, how to use it, and then if I start tracking the user, what do I want to do with that? And I think we still have a big lever here because there are not many companies who do this. And if I can come back to what you said previously, you said take compromises. So here, concerning marketing, I want to break this common knowledge of saying that we are used to being able to measure a lot thanks to Google. And now all of a sudden, where the cookies are less, then we work more with monitoring, and we can't measure what we used to measure 2 years ago. It's very crazy now because we say, why do I need to do it? I can't measure anymore. So why should I do it? But if we look at the entire context with all the marketing measures, and I don't ask what's behind the sign on the road, the signpost. So I accept it, and we can make use of it quite a lot. And independently of cookies and content marketing, I can do a lot more than I can do with analogic media. So there I have to say compromises in a way, yes, but there's going to be less. There's going to be a change. We have to live with the change, and we can no longer track one-to-one, and we have to take this into consideration, modeling and especially in the classical sense, we work very strongly with this calculation, and there's probably going to be a change of perspective in that area. First of all, as much and as possible, whether it's addressable TV or something else, you have to stay in reality. We don't have Formula One anymore, but we still can track. So, but for example, if we have a personal contact and go into B2B, where everything, we have optimized marketing and place as much as we can onto the website. And then you say, we're going to bring hundreds of years of marketing leads, and then the sales leaders just said we cannot do anything with this information. And this thought, what does sales marketing look like? If you put it together, does it make sense that with a banner optimize it? Or does it make sense to have as many contacts that I send on? How many people have, when they buy a kitchen, have actually asked for advice? And what's actually happening here. So we have this B2B, and the marketing is growing and sales is growing, and they grow together, and there's a kind of flow. One flows into the other, and from sales into marketing, and we notice this, very strongly. So maybe young startups that want to get onto the market, and in a way they're attractive, like Michael Hurnen, etc. And there's no longer this difference between marketing and sales. It's this customer interaction. I mean, they make advertisement from the website to the product, and to get all this together, I think that is really complex, and having a look at this more stronger. And we have one optimization with the bending that starts and is becoming stronger now, luckily. I think that is precisely the direction into which we would like to move. So most of the marketers let themselves be influenced and impressed by legal issues, and they use them in such a complex way as is asked for. So we have, for example, prize-winning games. And what do they say? Then we need to have an acceptance for a newsletter. So we have to accept a newsletter. There's a very horrifying legal sentence, and says, herewith I accept following conditions. So they force you to accept legal conditions, and people don't want that. And then they ask themselves, why aren't people considering of taking a newsletter? And this is going to also lessen the number of people who are going to play the prize-winning prizes. If you take part in a prize-winning game, and then you have these thank you for participating and you have a friendly page, then it's okay. But here you don't even have a picture. It looks horrible. And then here, we could, with one click, without a checkbox, make have a subscription, and then you subscribe to this newsletter. Well, you've taken part in the prize, in the market, which is then in the forefront, which informs us on the games and on the winning games. And you click a button and bang, or click a box. And here we have the conversion. You have this senseless ticking boxes. Nobody really wants to make use of it. And then on the second page, we have an automation where they can take part of this game and they can ask for the newsletter. I uncoupled this from the newsletter. And if you say, well, newsletter is okay, but considering of how many people open a newsletter, it's maybe the pure sensation is to have a 20% of people who actually subscribe to it. So maybe we can just put a super cool Facebook ad where you say, hey, would you like to take part in a prize-winning game, and make it all perfect? Then maybe there you just ask Facebook Pixel to accept the rules and conditions instead of taking these content management on the pop-up on this starter page where the user doesn't even know what they have to accept. What are they actually ticking? If you accept the conditions, then here I'm informed about prize-winning possibilities on Facebook. And I think here we can build up onto that on a hotel booking website. Then we can say, okay, let's take them into Facebook. And then we can make it nice for them that before they arrive, they might even be able to win something or learn more about the hotel via Facebook. You can make it all sexier than it actually is now. Okay, this is a typical example that would actually have the condition that you've got to think about getting paid ads and then continue that way. I'm saying that because I'm saying it in a very cynical way, because you see this with newsletter subscriptions where people don't think about it. They subscribe and it's all written in small letters, and it's like when you have the menu card in the hotel on the toilet. I mean, it's the same. I mean, the trainee of the assistant wrote the menu card. I mean, come on. Newsletter use. I mean, I get it, and then it says you have accepted the newsletter, and then I don't hear anything, and then I get a newsletter. I mean, there's no emotion behind it. If I was to say, would you like this and that, would you like to participate here or there, then I have the contact address, and then I try and find something really cool. It looks different. Totally different aspect, different. If you see people, you see a face, emotional style of writing, it's different. But if you have all these legal aspects, I mean, everybody can watch them and verify all the legal attitudes. But if we have all these specialists who went to specialist expensive universities and schools, and then they've got this really horrible legal blah, I mean, on these websites with nothing, so much said to emotionality. That's the thing. Who makes good marketing does not need to be afraid of the topic of cookies. Very nice. So we come to our end. So for the last minutes, we come to our conclusion. Peter, what would you like to tell the audience as a kind of a summary? How would you tell them to act in future? So I do think that we have to keep legal rights, and but we shouldn't be blended too much by the fact that I have to make use of it in such a way. Many marketers see it as an obstacle instead of making use of it in such a way that it's not an obstacle. This is, in the most cases, absolutely possible. And if we just think about it, of how can I avoid all these horrible legal texts and to build it up in more steps, and therefore make it all a bit more visible and interesting. Maybe if we talk about a world without cookies, do not say, okay, if somebody says it's the legal obligation because it doesn't have cookies, that this is not enough to make the tool legal. It needs more. Please, please do not believe people who tell you that, because make sure and have a look if it really is legal or not. Gerhard, what would you say? I can just repeat the fact that we need cool marketing, like other marketing, creative messages. I mean, it is as it is. It's limited. And 3 liters or 2 liters, I mean, everybody has the same cards that they're playing with, and you got to start just thinking that if I have a lot of money and I get many people onto my website and a lot of money through it, then how do I continue? What do I want to know from it? What do I really want to know? Not whether they have a Mac or a another computer. That's not what I want to know. I want information that interests me. That's my conclusion, because online marketing is going to become more complex, and it's probably going to stay the best media and the best way to reach people. Thank you, Lisa. I wouldn't say it's more difficult. I would say it becomes more exciting. It's not going to be boring in any way. And I can only, I mean, everything's been said, but I'd also like to say not to see it as a big danger, but also as a chance. We can take the topic of consent management, take on the cookies. We have this long legal text, and creating this with the user. Why do I need it? Why do I need to accept the terms and conditions? I think in future it's all going to be about looking at the systems again and not build in every single pixel that you get from an agency. I think the times are up. So just look at data ownership and look at the use cases, the strategies. I'm sure we're all going to make it really well. And I think in future we're going to have great campaigns. Thank you so much for your closing statement. I found them absolutely inspiring, because here we learn. We often think too much about problems, and we shouldn't put the focus and the accent on the problems, but we should try and find the solutions accordingly. So thank you so much for this conclusion, and thank you for listening. And so this was the pending cookieless future and what's next.